Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what's happening in markets today. Okay, S&P pretty much flat at the time of recording this video. Triple Qs, the NASDAQ up 0.25%. Look at the Russell, again, down 0.34%. The equal weight volatility is extremely high in this market. If you don't understand what this means, this video is going to change your perspective on markets right now. As I've talked about on this channel for the last at least couple of days, we are gearing up for a multi-month rally in stocks, okay? That's the bottom line. That's the secret sauce, okay? Big rally is coming. But we have to get through our catalyst lineup for this week, which is big tech earnings, the Fed, and Trump, China. This meeting that's going to be taking place on Thursday. And we're going to talk about all of that. In today's episode, we're going to be going over the breaking news. Trump has positive things to say on China. And I guess there's going to be a lot that is talked about and a lot of potential catalysts that could come about actually on Thursday. That could be a pretty big event. So do me a quick favor before we get into all of this information. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. Check that link out down below in the description of today's episode. With that said, let's get started. Richmond Fed October Manufacturing Index falls to -4 with shipments that rise to +4. Conference Board consumers average 12-month inflation expectations remain somewhat elevated, inching up to 5.9% in October from 5.8% in September. And the Richmond Fed Composite Index came in at -4. The forecast was -12, and last month was -17. So that was definitely better than expected. The USCB Consumer Confidence came in at 94.6. The previous month was 94.2, and the forecast was 93.75. So you beat last month and came in better than expectations. It's not like a blowout number, but it does show, maybe the economy is doing okay. Maybe a little bit better than some people thought. Microsoft says that they have reached an agreement with OpenAI regarding its ownership stake. Under the new terms, Microsoft now holds a 27% stake in OpenAI, valued at $135 billion, and OpenAI has committed to purchasing $250 billion worth of Azure services. UPS reported better than expected earnings today, but they also announced that they have eliminated roughly 14,000 management roles so far in 2025, above the 20,000 cuts they previously said they were targeting, and has reduced their operations workforce by an additional 34,000 positions. The U.S. House Price Index month over month came in at +0.4%, where the previous month was -0.1%. U.S. Case-Shiller, this is for home prices, year over year came in at +1.6%. The previous month was 1.8%, so a little bit of a slowdown, which looks good for housing inflation. Trump is meeting NVIDIA's CEO tomorrow and says he wants to quote-unquote congratulate him. Look at this headline. Short sellers are on track for their worst year since 2020, and they are blaming retail investors. This is going to continue for months to come. This is only going to get more dramatic. If you're a short seller, be warned. The ADP reported today preliminary U.S. estimates of an average increase of 14,250 jobs. This is good, okay? We have a positive preliminary jobs report for what looks like October. So, that's a lot better than nothing. Although that's probably not high enough for the break-even rate. We probably have a break-even rate of 50,000 or so jobs per month, so it does put upward pressure on the unemployment rate. But there's, again, more jobs being added than lost, which I think in this market is good news considering we don't have BLS data, so any data we get is important. Oracle's CEO says there is real value in AI. Demand far outpaces supply. And Oracle's CEO says he is not concerned about a quote-unquote AI bubble. Donald Trump says that Jerome Powell will be out in a few months. Trump on the Fed says the chairman is incompetent or a bad guy. Chinese and U.S. trade negotiators have lined up an array of agreements for Xi Jinping and Donald Trump to formally unveil this week. So Thursday is setting up to be a big day. We also had PayPal earnings today that beat on revenue as well as EPS, which that's one of those kind of bellwether indicators for the economy because over 400 million people use PayPal. So if the economy is really not doing great, you're going to see it show up in PayPal numbers. You're going to see it show up in credit card companies. You're going to see it show up everywhere related to the consumer. And it's not happening. Okay, it's just not happening. UPS had good numbers today. PayPal had good numbers. SoFi had good numbers. Visa reports today in after hours. They're going to be very important. Okay, depending on what Visa says, that's like the slam dunk, okay? If Visa says good things on the consumer and on the economy, then the economy's fine. If they say there's problems, then there's problems. I've always viewed earnings from like a Visa or Capital One or American Express as a lot more insightful than economic data from the BLS. I've never really thought the BLS was good at collecting data, but credit card companies, they know exactly what's going on with their consumers and users of their platform. Says, I'm confident that U.S.-Japanese friendship is strong. China reportedly will require influencers to prove their training in order to discuss sensitive topics such as medicine or finance. I feel like America should have that too. There's so many people that talk about markets that just have no idea. Trump says that Bessent soothes the markets, thinking of Bessent for Fed, but he doesn't want it. PayPal and OpenAI have signed a deal to make PayPal the first payments wallet inside of ChatGPT. Trump says, I think the meeting with Xi will work out well. U.S. Commerce Secretary Lutnick says Trump will sign $490 billion in investment deals. And again, as I said, UPS beat earnings today. Revenue came in at $21.4 billion. The estimate was $20.9 billion. With adjusted EPS that came in at $1.74 versus estimates of $1.34. So very strong earnings with a good guidance. For Q4 revenue, they're projecting $24 billion. The estimate was $23.83 billion. I don't know how much this moves markets these days, but I'll share the headline anyways. Israeli Prime Minister says Hamas has violated the ceasefire. This headline says Fed is expected to stay cautious ahead of rate decision. Credit Mutual says the Federal Reserve will likely take a cautious stance at Wednesday's meeting amid limited economic data from the government shutdown. Chair Jerome Powell is expected to describe growth as solid and the labor market as balanced, but facing mild downside risks. Inflation expectations remain stable, and labor market softness isn't seen driving prices higher. The Fed is widely expected to cut rates by 25 basis points with attention on its outlook comments. And we're also expecting Jerome Powell and the Fed to likely end quantitative tightening, which should be really good for markets as well. Now, Amazon says AI is the most transformative technology since the internet, which is something we've talked about and continue to talk about regularly on this channel. I mean, AI is the biggest thing to happen since the internet. Like, are we in a bubble right now? No. AI is in its infancy. Will we be in a bubble one day? Probably. When does that happen? Your guess is as good as mine. Trump says that Toyota is building plants in the U.S. worth up to $10 billion. The CNN Fear and Greed Index today is still in fear territory at 41, although is approaching the neutral level, which is above 45. Yesterday, you were at 37. Market momentum is extreme greed. Stock price strength is fear. Stock price breadth, extreme fear. Again, the difference between the VIX and the VIX EQ. Stock price breadth being in extreme fear means that, a good chunk of this market has not been participating, although it's getting a little bit better since October 17th at the low. I think that's going to get more dramatic into the end of this week, right? I think by Friday, you're really going to see momentum come back to life. You're really going to see the AI trade come back to life in a big way, and small caps following again, the collapse in volatility in single stocks following the Fed's rate cut and likely the end of QT, and what should be a trade deal or some kind of trade framework announced between the US and China, right? All of that is going to fuel stocks, especially towards the end of this week, specifically on Friday into the following week. And maybe this is what kickstarts the rally into the end of the year, right? That would be my guess. Now, put and call options sitting at greed. Market volatility is neutral. Safe haven demand is fear, and junk bond demand in extreme fear. Again, we don't have a new AI investor sentiment survey until Thursday, but last we knew bullish investors were at 36.9%, bearish investors at 42.7%, and neutral investors at 20.5%. So, there's still more bears than bulls, which is a green flag that stocks are going higher. Now today, you actually have the percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average down about 3% to 49.07%. So 51% of stocks are below their 50-day moving average. So again, stock price breadth being an extreme fear over on, the CNN Fear and Greed Index. I'm not surprised 51% of stocks are below their 50-day moving average. To me, that just means people are bearish. There's room for upside on positive news, and I think that's what we're going to get later into this week. The VIX today is up 3.23%. Again, Russell is down a quarter, NASDAQ is up a quarter, S&P's basically flat, and the Dow is up a third of 1%. Wall Street, they don't want to sell the hyperscalers right now, right? Because what if they do have good earnings? But as I've explained on this channel many times before, if hyperscaler earnings, let's say Meta, if they're like, okay, AI is going to take a lot longer than we thought, we're going to scale back AI CapEx. Meta might fall, okay? It might fall 5-10% maybe. But what do you think is going to happen to the small cap AI companies? They're going to get absolutely obliterated. Now, good news is, there's no slowdown in AI coming anytime soon. Oracle's CEO said today, again, as that was one of the news headlines I shared with you, that AI demand far outpaces supply. That means investment is going to continue for a long time into the future. That's in English what that means. Okay? So we're going to get reaffirmed, if you will, of AI and the longer term potential of the technology this week with hyperscaler earnings. What do you think that's going to do to the small cap area? What do you think that's going to do to AI stocks, right? It's going to be very, very positive. And that's what I'm positioning for right now. Okay, while obviously anything can happen, I think there's a 99% chance hyperscaler earnings are better than expected, as they typically are, and AI guidance stays the same or goes higher. Probably a 1% chance it actually falls. Okay? With that kind of a setup, with the Fed cutting rates on Wednesday, potentially ending QT, and presumably a positive outcome from the Trump-China meeting on Thursday, mixed with historically strong seasonals. See, the S&P since 2012 goes up 4% in the last 10 weeks of the year. With all of these other catalysts, it's going to go up probably a lot more than that. Okay? Again, I just want to highlight the equal weight VIX is at about 50% of the peak fear level you had back in April. Okay? Back in April, the VIX peaked at 70. Today, it's at almost 42. Okay? For the VIX peaked at about 52 back in April, and it's at 16 today. For a similar ratio of fear, the VIX would have to be at like 27, okay? It's at 16. That shows you just how fearful Wall Street is in single stocks versus the headline VIX. Like, Wall Street's not concerned that we're going to have a stock market crash coming, but they're concerned that single companies could fall, okay? So ultimately, when that volatility collapses, it's going to trigger buying pressure. I've talked about this before, and I don't want to stick on this point for too long, but when volatility rises, Wall Street sells. They hedge, they get nervous. okay? When volatility comes down, it triggers automatic buying from the algorithms that the hedge funds use, okay? When volatility goes down, that just means buy stocks, right? When volatility goes up, that means sell stocks and hedge. It's ass backwards, right? For a retail investor, normally you're buying as volatility goes up. You're buying as stock prices fall, and then you're probably sitting on your positions as volatility comes down again and as stocks go up, right? It's essentially the opposite for hedge funds and institutions, okay? So we have a clear setup for a massive rally coming, probably starting on Friday, maybe on Wednesday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are good days. But again, we have big tech earnings from Meta, Microsoft, Google on Wednesday, right? So that's a big catalyst, okay? Also the Fed on Wednesday, so tomorrow. The Fed is at 2 p.m. The conference call is at 2:30, okay? And then Meta, Microsoft, Google are in after hours. On Thursday, you have the Trump-China meeting. Probably going to get news on that in the morning, if I were to imagine. And then Amazon and Apple earnings Thursday and after hours. Like, if Meta, Microsoft, Google earnings are good, if the Fed is good, if we get good news from the Trump-China meeting Thursday pre-market, I don't think Wall Street's going to wait to rally until Amazon and Apple. So Thursday could actually be a really good day once we hear about the Trump-China meeting in the morning, okay? But after, we get Amazon, Apple earnings Thursday and after hours, Friday is shaping up to be probably the strongest day. And then I think this strength leads into next week and really the end of this year. This is going to start an end of the year rally that a lot of Wall Street is not prepared for, and you need to be prepared for this in your portfolio. I think this rally is going to favor the risk-on areas. I think it's going to favor the stocks that have sold off recently. And I think your portfolio is about to see a massive upside swing. So let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. If you guys want to come join the trading community, come get involved with the stocks that we are identifying as under the radar AI opportunities. And come get involved with the community. Link down below if you guys want to get $100 in free stock when you sign up with the link as well in the description of this video for public and deposit $1,000. You'll get $100 in free stock. That's free money. Check it out. That's my favorite brokerage as well. So if you want to give it a whirl, get yourself free money, you might as well. I mean, free money's free money. You can't go wrong with a free $100. Okay, that's a day's work for some of you guys. That's maybe 2 days worth of free work, okay? Like working a day job for a day or two. It's free money, absolutely free 99. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.